Thank you everyone for joining this special moment for us today, both for me and Gauri. Gauri is my co-author. Unfortunately, she couldn't make it to this event due to a medical situation which prevented her from traveling for the next 30 days or so. But nevertheless, in spirit, she is there with us here, and she's in fact helped put together, get all of us into this room today for this discussion. So a round of applause for Gauri for virtually enabling all this and making it possible, and for Hema for putting this format and this gathering here today. So to begin, I think like Hema said, the context. Leader was once a child. So this is a topic which kind of I started thinking about during my coaching journey itself. So I've been an executive coach now for the last 7 years, and having coached different people, there was one common thread which I observed, essentially looking at how the childhood is impacting their leadership styles, and that's where this journey began. So today in the panel, we will look at few of these questions that we would want to delve a bit deeper. I think I'll also open it to the audience as well, because there are seasonal HR leaders and CEOs and other leaders also in the panel. So I think it can be more of a dialogue that we can have together. So to begin with, I would request each one of you to introduce about yourself and the organization.
Nice to be amongst people who are talking about such a profound subject, I thought. I deeply believe in the fact that what we become as adults, the way we lead our lives, it has got a huge amount of influence of our childhood, the way we lead our lives. So this topic, when Gauri reached out to me, this kind of resonated very deeply within me, and I said it's a great opportunity to go and learn from many other people. Also use the opportunity to share a bit what I know. I run an HR solutions company called CIEL HR. My name is Aditya Mishra. I am one of the co-founders and managing director of the company. We are a company in India which caters to the entire HR value chain, right from finding talent, developing talent, and managing talent. So that's a brief introduction and the context.
Thank you, Aditya.
Thank you. Neeraja Ganesh. Some of you do know me, and I'm so glad to be part of this panel. I'm sure all of us know each other through various networks, and so let me introduce myself by saying that many people call me the networking queen, and I think that's something that I didn't do intentionally, it just happened, and somebody gave it a name, right? And I'm so glad Gauri and I have met once before the other book launch, but then we've been connected only through LinkedIn. We've been connected through LinkedIn.
Yes.
We've been connected through LinkedIn, and now we've been connected first here and then through LinkedIn. Well, in terms of introductions, professionally in Bangalore, all of us would have had some technology that we've dealt with, and I've had 25 years of that. My last corporate stint was with Capgemini. I used to head large delivery initiatives for banking GCCs. And then in 2017, I moved out, not very intentionally. But one of the things that I was very intentional about was to help women, because in my own growth journey and with mentoring women, I realized that there are a lot of mindsets that keep us, behind. And so I did want to do a few things around that. So I've dabbled with a lot of initiatives, a lot of organizations and platforms, but I also run my own programs in terms of helping largely women, but men are welcome to be part of those initiatives, to look at their in mindsets that inhibit them from actually embracing situations and moving forward. So that's the work that I do. Glad to be here.
Thank you, Neil.
Thanks, Neeraja. You are able to hear us at the back?
Yeah, otherwise there's three chairs here.
Yeah, otherwise front benchers. Not that front benchers always excel, but you can try. My name is Anshuman Tiwari. I had experience for HR at GSK globally. My role is at GSK to help how to make sure that the experience that people have with HR systems and processes it gets better. At least my being around helps in some way. Uh, and of course, to limit negative experiences also. So one part of experience is to elevate positive experiences, but other part is to limit or, if possible, avoid negative experiences. So that's what I do. But this is more recently. I've been more or less in operational excellence and quality management, transformation for over 30 years. And I don't know, now HR transformation. So that's about it.
So
What
actually,
else?
when I saw your designation, like your hairstyle is cool, your designation was also cool, GXO. So there was some X factor there. Yeah, so.
Hairstyle is, while when I have it, I can flaunt it. Most people don't have
They
this.
don't have it, yes, yes. Yes. So thank you for that introduction. In fact, when I started working on this concept, it was important that we bring the HR perspective into it, because predominantly my career has been in the marketing side of things. Though the last 6 7 years I've got into the coaching, and I think, like you rightly mentioned about the gender diversity, I think that was where me and another friend of mine, we had started a entity called Pink Ladder, which essentially looked at how do we mentor, coach women so that they overcome these self-limiting beliefs, and then we have more women on the top and break the glass ceiling. So that's where the entire journey of coaching began. But otherwise, it's predominantly been the marketing side of things. So that's where I spoke to Gauri and I said, if you're going to be writing a book on HR, there needs to be an HR along with it, and that's where this journey began. So, like Hema mentioned, we also did a lot of research. We ran online surveys and then spoke to a lot of leaders as well. So, as part of that, some interesting data points came in. One, I think, firstly, while this topic has been there, not many people have brought it to the forefront and spoken about it. So I think somewhere it's there back of the mind, but nobody has advocated that. So when we went and spoke to a lot of leaders, they were able to immediately connect to it, and some of them said we've never thought of it that way. This gave us an opportunity to reflect and figure out some patterns ourselves. So that was quite interesting when we began the research. So one of the data points which showed us, and question to Aditya, was that with 58% of leaders that we surveyed, they acknowledged that limiting beliefs actually arose from their childhood, right? So how critical is it for organizations to actively help leaders unlearn these patterns?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely critical for any organization or a team's success. It's important that the person who's directing that team has a has a vision, has a picture of where this needs to reach in certain time, and has got certain amount of clarity in his or her mind about reaching there. So I think I have seen many leaders really hesitate to take to first imagine in their heads
Yeah.
that where they want to reach. So that's where the first limitation comes. Many are quite comfortable to just keep going through the motions and going the transactions and think incrementally. But to take some large risks or take some calculated moves, make those strategic choices which can actually alter the fate of the team's destination in some time. So those kind of things, I think, comes partly probably through the childhood experiences, some reflections of
Yeah.
seeing others do it as we do our lives, go through our lives as adults, and some, I think, an organization can facilitate those kind of learning experiences, or the kind of settings where somebody has that liberty to reflect, the liberty to share openly without being judged. So it's very easy to say, and it's
Yeah.
probably to our rational mind one thinks that, yeah, this must have been done. What's the big deal? Why can't organizations do it?
Yeah.
But I think from as a practitioner, or as someone who's seeing thousands of organizations go through this, I can tell you that many people really don't participate very wholeheartedly, just because the way it is set up, the way always they're judged, and the way they have grown up in their lives. So I think organizations and their families and the near circle plays a very, very important role on people's minds to remove those limitations that you were talking about.
Yes, so true. Neeraja, my next question to you. So, despite over 50% of leaders reflecting on their childhood, so when we spoke to them, some of them said, "Yeah, I've been thinking about this," right? Most of them do it in a very informal manner. So, you do a lot of leadership training as well. So, putting on that lens, how important do you believe is a structured reflection in unlocking their true leadership potential in a better manner?
Sure. So I think not all of us, have been taught how to reflect. We just go about lives,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Unless and until somebody puts you on the seat and said, deeply reflect. And even then, most of us are not able to. And coaches kind of hopefully enable that.
Yeah.
Many people, unless they are at a level of maturity, they say, why did I pay you so much of time for you to tell me to reflect? I thought you will give me
Yes.
some gyan, right? So, a quick story here. Recently, just I think a couple of days back, I was conducting a program on imposter syndrome. And this was for women.
Yeah.
It was a 2-day program. And the way I conduct any of the programs, anything, whether it's imposter syndrome, negotiation, work life integration, my first part of the program is about mindsets. Because in today's day and age of ChatGPT, I don't have to teach them tips and tricks. They can get
Yeah,
more
yeah.
than what I can offer. But despite that, why is it that they are not able to implement it? So we were going through this mindset journey, and then the next day I introduced a couple of tools. One of them is called as a thought record, to say that when an imposter syndrome kicks in, what is the first thought that is coming? What is the emotion that is coming? And is there any evidence of that emotion and that thought? And the minute they think through that and there is no evidence, then I say now shift to, because there is no evidence of that you're not good enough. So then can you move to a positive thought, right? So we went through this whole thing, and still there was this one lady who said, I'm not able to do this. And she gave me a situation. She said, I'm attending your program, which I had signed up more than a month ago. It's a program that the organization has offered. It's an open program. Anybody can sign up for it. And I signed up. And I'm sure the approval process took it to the skip level manager, and it's got approved because it didn't get rejected. Now, there was a change of manager after this happened, and she also had to go for a week of unplanned leave. So now she's come back and she's still choosing to attend my program, and she feels that she is getting judged.
Oh.
This is a new team that she's moved into the last 1 month. There's a new manager who's come in, and she's gone on unpaid leave, I mean, a little bit of unplanned leave. She thinks that I'm being judged why I'm attending this program. Because someone came and asked her a simple question: did you opt to attend this program? So I said, how did you respond to this person? She said, I didn't respond anything. But I have this feeling that I'm being judged, that I'm not taking my work seriously. I'm choosing to attend this program instead of actually working. And then I made her reflect. The first question was, are you not meeting your deliverables? She said, no, I'm meeting my deliverables. I said, has this person who said, did you opt, say anything about why are you not doing other things? She said, no, he didn't say anything about it. A few questions of that, which is like structured coaching, if you may say. And then I said, well, these are your assumptions. Your assumption that he asking you, why are you attending or did you opt for this program, is an assumption which is coming from something of the past.
Yes.
Childhood, could be in your college, could be in the previous organization, previous team or whatever. But just this 5 minutes of just asking these questions helped her realize that I'm jumping to conclusions. and I'm assuming things. And maybe if she had not sat through and had this conversation next time, she may not even opt to attend a program, right?
Correct.
So I think that's why the structured reflections and the structured coaching is important.
Yeah.
To help them go back to a point in time to say this happened, and hence it's become a habit for me to treat everything else after that like this.
So true. And I think this is also a challenge from an India context when I look at it, because we have never been taught right from our school days to kind of reflect and find answers ourselves, right? Then there's a textbook, we'll ask for a guide, right? So even in my coaching engagements, like you rightly pointed out, with the moment we explain, set the context, saying you will have to find the answers. My role here is only to show you the mirror or ask you questions. The first thing they say is, but that is not what I want. I want answers on why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm not here just to reflect by myself. So again, I think that's again a systemic challenge. But thanks for sharing that. So Anshuman, coming to you, our study also showed that over 70% of leaders link empathy and emotional intelligence to their early childhood experience. So this was also as part of the interviews that we were conducting. So how do you see this playing out in high performance and high pressure environments? Because now that's kind of becoming a norm, right? So everywhere, and especially with advent of AI, which is there, you're expected to do things at a much faster pace than what you were doing. If not, they say, no, I don't need you, I'll replace it with an AI agent, right? So how do you see this playing out?
So I'm surprised that it is only 71%. It should be 99% or so. So maybe if your sample size is bigger, you might have got to 99. See, I firmly believe, and of course Neeraja and Aditya also said that much of what we are today was wired in our childhood. That doesn't mean that we can't change the wiring. It only means that the wiring was done. Of course, the wiring even starts even further if you go into more. Of course, genetic is there. Then how you the whole 9 months that you are growing.
Yes.
What is the environment there? Then there is this concept of enriched environment, and so you can change the wiring, but wiring is there. So to be able to say that I am the only issue I have with all of this is that people tend to find it as an excuse and blame their childhood or whatever they didn't have in the childhood for what they are today. You can change what you are today. Of course, what you are today is shaped by what your childhood was.
Yeah.
But that doesn't give us any reason or excuse to not change what we are today. In fact, all of and then if you go deeper into psychology, both Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud created this impression that you can't change, and it needed Alfred Adler to come along and say that you can change. And most of modern psychology from Maxwell onwards is focused on you can change, which is the whole enriched environment movement that is there. So to answer your question more specifically, all characteristics, why only empathy?
Yeah.
Empathy, resilience. In my own case, I remember my focus or fascination with being on time or before time comes from childhood. I saw my father being like that, and that became my. That's the only way I know. So if you call me at 5:15, I'll be there at 5.
Yeah.
Maybe earlier. And it's not a virtue I am now looking for any appreciation because it is the only way I know.
Correct.
There is that 520 doesn't exist for me. Right? So, and that's true for empathy, resilience, how you deal with people. Of course, you can keep improving,
Yeah.
but definitely it has a very, very big part. The only caution I will repeat is that we shouldn't start believing that it is a limiting factor and you can't now change it. You can change it for good and bad,
Yeah.
for both.
Yes,
You
yes.
can change it, but it is a very, very dominant factor.
In fact, I'm reading this book called Behave, so in which he talks about what all factors actually get into how humans behave in a good way or in a bad way. So right from the chemical composition to DNA to what experiences that you would have seen happen around you, multiple things actually contribute. towards that?
Absolutely. There is that age-old joke around that are emotions chemistry or is chemistry emotions? You know, so is our emotions defined by chemistry that we have with all the chemicals playing in, or the chemicals are being impacted by the emotions? We don't know, right? So
Nicely put, nicely put. So now we'll go, to Aditya. So we'll probably look at a couple of questions from personal reflections standpoint as well. So Aditya, was there any defining moment or phase that you remember from your childhood that shaped your approach towards leadership?
I think there are many. I will, maybe I can write a book someday about this. But let me just say something very interesting. From my school days, I had a very interesting teacher who I am very influenced by. He used to tell us many stories from the epics, and he used to teach us the lesson from there and tell us. Um, Many of us used to listen and most of us forgot most of them. But one story suddenly comes to my mind. I think he was talking to us about the story in the Mahabharata, when Draupadi in the king's court is being disrobed. So she resists, and after a point in time, she actually lifts both her hands and says that if there is none of you guys are able to really save me from this embarrassment, if there is anyone who can save me, come and save. So she raises both her hands, and then an infinite rope comes and wraps her around. So then he teaches us the value of surrender. So he says that there are many things in life where you simply cannot control. So you should surrender to some higher power. Probably there is some energy from somewhere who will come and save you. So that has a very, very deep impression on my mind. As leader, there are many things that we simply just can't predict, though Western management principles and okay, let me not be sort of sounds sexist here or whatever, biased by Western versus system. Many management principles tell us that you must plan ahead, you must have mitigation methods and all of that. Yet, day to day, there are many situations which come which simply can't be controlled or can't be forecasted. So then what you do as a leader? Many of us, the first reaction is to sort of, react to it. The response is reaction. You call somebody and say that why the hell is this happening? Why couldn't you think about it? Find this. I don't want to see this again, or whatever. I mean, I'm just describing some sample common responses that leaders give. But many times I just pause myself and say that, okay, it was not, maybe you were stupid or whatever, you didn't plan for it, it has happened. Now you calm down, surrender first to some event, somebody who's directing this event. It has happened. So now you do your best. So you calm down and respond. So this is a lesson that I have learned in childhood. I can think of many actually, as I was describing, many lessons that I have learned from my mother, learned from my friends, learned from my bosses, come, fly past my mind. But I'll stop here. The point that I'm trying to make is that if we can pause to make those connections in our mind, we can become stronger leaders. That's the point that I'm making.
Very interesting. So Neeraja, you focus a lot from the women coaching and women mentoring as well from a leadership standpoint. Uh, any early experiences in your life or in your journey, both from personal and professional standpoint, which made you move towards this path, and now you're enabling a lot more women to kind of achieve their true potential?
So, growing up, I was a very meek, timid, shy girl. And not many people believe that, especially the ones who met me after that phase of transformation, right? And the ones who know me from then ask me, how did this happen?
Yeah.
Are you the same person? So coming from an extremely conservative South Indian family, where an only child, where you've been taught to listen and agree and not necessarily challenge. That's the upbringing. And I was okay with it, right? So I kind of grew up that way. School, I didn't have any friends. So I did my schooling till the seventh grade in Indore. I didn't have any friends. Came back to Bangalore. It was a bit smaller classroom in Bangalore. Though there we used to have 60, 70 people. So I don't think anybody ever bothered, knew the existence of a Neeraja. Came here, there were smaller groups, 23, 24 of us. Again, there were always two clans in classrooms, if you remember. One is the popular ones.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're part of that.
And then the backbenchers, they are the more popular
the
ones.
popular ones are probably the
backbenchers,
backbenchers.
yeah.
And the other one, which may not be as popular, also not be as, good scoring in the subjects. I mean, those days were only academics, not necessarily
Yes.
any extracurriculars. I think I went and sat with that other group, which was, not the popular gang. Also because I was good at math, I was good at Hindi, and they used to come to me for some guidance. So that was the crowd that I was part of. In those days, there was no concept of any conversations that are required. You get a spec, you code, you do your bit of testing, you hand it over, you've done a good job, go home, right? This was the nature. And when you ask me the question, did it shape me? I think it shaped me from a perspective of when you're so quiet, you got to do something. When you're not talking, what are you doing? You're listening, you're observing. And I think I observed a lot, which has helped me build certain mindsets about myself and about others. So it's been there. That's what has kind of helped me understand people, which helps me today. The second part of it is that there came an opportunity when I was working in ANZ where they put me into a team lead role. Those days, leadership was not defined with whatever we talk about today. It was about you're the most technically qualified, take over this role. And that's when I realized that I can't be this meek, timid girl because the team is looking up to me to do certain things. The stakeholders are bombarding us with something which we do not believe in and agree to. So I need to kind of challenge, need to talk and all that stuff, which I did. And thankfully, the management at that time was open to listening to me. So if that had not happened, I don't know how it had shaped me. The management did hear me out and they did take into account some of the suggestions that I was putting forth. And it really impacted the team and the organization for the better. So that's when the Neeraja transformed to speaking and not stopping speaking, right? So for me, when I think about it, an opportunity came. Somebody said, let's put her in the role. And I felt that in the role, I got to speak, I got to do certain things. How many people get that opportunity? If I had not gotten the opportunity, I might have continued as the meek, timid, shy girl. I wouldn't have been here today, I presume. So that's what has made me realize that I need to enable other women, largely women, because that's the audience that comes to me, but there could be others too, to reflect on what are those mindsets which are keeping them back. Um, and transformations, behavioral changes can happen for the good or better. I did transform from being a meek, timid, shy girl to actually challenging and speaking my mind and to becoming an assertive leader. So that's what has triggered this. To say that if I could do it, I did it only because an opportunity presented. You can't keep waiting for opportunities to present. Let's go create opportunities for ourselves. Can we get rid of those limiting mindsets? So that's how it happened.
Thank you for sharing that. Anshuman, any stories, experiences?
Oh, like Aditya was saying, a lot of stories, and I've heard two brilliant speakers share their stories. So, but I'll add one maybe from school time. I don't necessarily identify with this leadership tag. I'm more a management guy, simple, get the work done. Leader order is of uh, white man's burden, but if we succumb to or surrender, as Aditya said, to the concept of leadership, as most people know, one trait I do have, and I've got a lot of credit, is that I take chances with people. I've done that a lot over the last at least 10, 15 years when I've been in slightly senior roles. And that actually deep rooted comes from period in class 10, 12, around that time when several of my teachers took multiple chances with me, not just once. One I will share. I'd actually left my school in Delhi to join another school. I was a, school level cricket player, so I was very keen to join a school where you could get proper cricket coaching. And I did well in their entrance exam, so I got admission. Long story short, within 1 or 2 days, some things happened, and they said that because you want cricket, you should be in commerce, not in science. And I said nothing doing. I applied for science. I did well in the science entrance exam, so I joined. Anyway, all that, long story short, I wanted to come back to my original school. I had already taken transfer certificate, TC. Right? So, and hardly anyone would know me because, like Mishra said, I was also a fairly introverted, quiet kind of a guy. But and this was unheard of. You've taken TC from your school. How are you going to go back? And my 10th score were 10% below the score where they were even distributing forms. So 72 or 75 was the percent for 10 where they were saying that you can apply for science. My 10th score was 62%. So uh, I didn't even qualify as an outsider. Forget insider. But I went and the principal called a couple of teachers from 10th class and they said, नहीं नहीं ये कर लेगा मैडम, आप chance दे दो. I can't forget that moment. So, of course, now whenever I am in those situations, I said कर लेगा. So, sometimes it doesn't work out. Of course, you go wrong, but I think 9 out of 10 times it works. Because that person at the receiving end is also thinking, now we have to do it.
Correct.
So I think this is one anecdote which I thought might be very relevant for the book as well, because
Yes.
while I have changed many things, I have tried not to change this aspect.
So we covered from a personal anecdotes and personal reflection standpoint. Now, if each one of you were to wear your roles as organization leads, right, and in your case as a leadership coach itself. So Aditya, as a CEO right now, when you look at your teams, can you identify any patterns like probably risk aversion or over enthusiasm or over drive which is there that may actually stem from their earlier life conditioning? Any patterns like that you observe in your teams?
Yeah, as I said, I think it's all connects with where people have come from, what they have been exposed to. So as a leader, my challenge has always been that how do I bring all of them to the same page, same platform, same beliefs, same thoughts. For example, you started this conversation with challenging the limits.
Yeah.
So let's take that as an example. People who have come from certain kind of background, they are quite okay to really, for example, an industry is growing at 10%, but we want to set a target of 50% growth that we will do. How do we do this? First of all, accepting the fact that, yeah, 50% is possible. So that is to sort of bring together 7, 8, 10 people to believe that 50% is possible. So then, as a leader, you have to bring those stories, those examples. Then somebody is saying, no, no, boss, that was an exception. That was an exception. Can't be done. So you have to bring minds together. So that is the challenge when we work together. And I'm not saying that 100 out of 100 times I succeed. Probably more times I fail than I will succeed. But the times that I have seen that I am able to really align everybody together, the result is fantastic. And that fantastic result has got such a long impact and a big impact on the organization that it's okay. I tried 10 things. I'm not really scared of not trying. I will try 10 things, maybe 4 I will succeed,
Yeah.
but I want to try and succeed. So that also why I behave in this manner
Yeah.
probably connects with my past experiences. Could be childhood, could be school,
Yes.
college, friends, family, whatever, some influence. So I operate from that. All of us know that it is important to challenge the status quo,
Correct.
right? All of us read this, and umpteen number of influencers tell us that we must. If you want to produce extraordinary results, you must do this.
Correct.
But how many people are able to do this? Is number one. Number two, how do you align the people? Because one person is not going to do it.
Correct.
It's a team who is going to do it. Then they're going to cascade it down to their own teams, and probably 50, 60, 100, 500 people, depending upon the size of the organization, have to be behind it. So how do you really mobilize? So I call this mobilizing. How do you mobilize? I mean, not in the political sense of mobilizing crowd, but how do you mobilize energies? How do you mobilize intent? How do you align people? So I think that's where it's a leadership challenge.
Correct.
It has been very interesting for me to think about it every time that I fail.
Very interesting. Neeraja, from a coaching standpoint, what are some common childhood-driven patterns that you've seen that typically shows up in leadership from some of the client examples that you may have?
Sure. Again, I'll probably take a women-centric example. So, for example, if I were to kind of talk about negotiation, they will say, "Can you teach my team negotiation skills so that they are able to negotiate in the organization for a better pay, better promotion, better roles, whatever?" Again, I say that you can teach those tricks and tips, but I think it should stem from the fact that before you negotiate at the organization level, you should negotiate at home. Because there is a lot that you carry from there to your organization. And when we make the women reflect on, do you negotiate at home for certain things? That I want to be here this evening on a Saturday. Some of us are here. What went
In the
at the
back.
back, at our homes? I don't know if those conversations happen for men. After you are asked those questions. But why on a Saturday? And I've been out since morning, Soumya, and I've been out since morning till night. Okay, today. And tomorrow also we have a packed day. So then there are those conversations, right? Do we negotiate? There are many women who don't show up at these kinds of events or
Yes.
some other places because they don't want to do that conversation at home. And what triggers the not wanting to do the conversations are the stereotypes and the guilt. That's kind of paramount because growing up, you have seen whoever is there in the families not doing such things, or you being taught that you probably don't have to do these things, you shouldn't be doing these things. Simple thing, right? My own daughter, who's 24 now, I remember when she was 3, in some conversation she said, "But Ma, women have to be in the kitchen." Despite the fact that I have never been in the kitchen except to eat. But who has she looked at? She's looked at both sets of grandmothers who have been in the kitchen and cooked, and they raised her. So she believed that women have to be in the kitchen. It has taken a while after that to see that my mother doesn't do it. Once she started going to school, I started dropping her to school. And then she started seeing me, and today, of course, she sees me doing all of this, and she's on that bandwagon. So the guilt and the stereotype that is associated with how the girl was raised and what was told to her in terms of her behavior and her action is the reason why she doesn't negotiate at home. And most of my attendees said, "Oh, I would rather not have that conversation. Let me deal with it and I'll come to work because I want to work." But do you not realize when you bring that burden of, I call it as, you can't quantify that burden. Sitting here, I'm thinking tomorrow is a wedding that I have to go to. Did I even buy the gift? It's an unconscious thing that I'm thinking about. My child has to go to a birthday party. Did I organize the gift? And hence, you're not necessarily able to contribute as effectively at work. and also automatically you are kind of being thought of as an administrator. At home also, you probably will take care of everything even if it's not spoken about. Maybe at work also, you become an administrator before you being thought about for roles which are more administrative. They say, oh, for an offsite now, will you please choose the menu?
Yeah.
Will you please choose the location? It kind of, or will you take the minutes? Today, of course, we don't have to. There's
Yeah,
AI
yeah.
that does it. So what I'm saying is these are the things which are influencing people at home, and let me say people, men, women, whoever, because they saw that, they were being told that, and it has a large impact in the way they perform in organizations, and then maybe they lead their teams. So yeah, that's something to really deeply reflect upon.
Yeah. So that's rightly said, and I think before AI was taking minutes, that would be a norm, right? So where you immediately look at any women colleague and you say, why don't you take the minutes for that? And they also don't say no.
Yeah, exactly.
Why should I? Why not
That's the
somebody
way
else?
they've been. All
They've
admin work has
brought
been
up.
mine, so
Yeah,
let me do it.
yeah. So true. So true. So Anshuman, when you look at success or failure or stress at a workplace, how do you operate in a stressful situation at a workplace? Uh, you will need a particular style of operating, right? Be it you call it leadership or even just operational way of how do you operate in such situations. Do you trace it back to the kind of environments in which they would have grown up, which kind of mentally prepares them to be better equipped to handle such stressful situations or failures?
In general, yes. So I often say that as parents, our job is to prepare, not to protect. Same holds true as managers also. If you're protecting too much, either as parent or as a manager, you are not preparing people. Then when that opportunity, then situation comes, they are underprepared or unprepared or ill prepared, which is even worse. Right? They don't know what to do. Right? So I certainly think you have to leave. And growing up, my father kind of, and my father was always the dominant parent in the family. Uh, though, as I grew up, I think my mother realized that she has a role. So the influence was more significant once I was a little older. And I think after I was 20 or so, then it's been only her. So, but maybe everybody has their own phases of parenthood.
Yeah.
So I'll not go there. But coming back to your question, definitely that has an impact. I definitely see one issue, um, and I'm not trying to compete with Neeraja because her answer was more women centric. My answer is more male centric. Not that, but there is a concept called male inexpressiveness. And there was a very popular book in the 60s, 70s, which is out of print, by the same name, where the idea that men are unable to express, including simple things like saying well done and good job. Uh, and this becomes worse, of course, in corporate environment because they feel that whatever I say, do, feel might be seen in multiple ways. So better is to keep quiet.
Yeah.
So, and this is all across, many men are tied down to responsibility of being the primary provider. So that kind of holds them back on everything at work, particularly. I'll keep this conversation to work. So that issue definitely, I think for most of us comes from having seen the men in our family being very inexpressive.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So, and I certainly see I have great difficulty taking a compliment, even today. Somebody says something nice about me, I am absolutely embarrassed. Of course, over the last few years, I have been more conscious, and because I am more in public now, I think over practice, I have improved a little bit. But even now, the first reaction is, "Yaar, bacha lo, yaar," somehow kind of, leave this conversation. So those, and that happens at work as well. I can't openly compliment somebody very easily. I just don't believe in this brown bag lunches and offsite meetings and all. Completely, total rubbish, waste of time, waste of money, everything. And all that comes from that
Yeah.
inexpressiveness that I carry with me. everything you see me as today is a show, right? Once this is over, I am quietly sulking in some corner. so, so, but it's tough because you are trying to get over your inexpressiveness, which is a gift from your childhood, gift or curse, you decide. But it is what it is, and I see that in a lot of people.
Yeah.
That you can't just walk away from the the chains that you are in. It takes a long time. I think I started making this shift only. I'm 53 now, around maybe 5-10 years ago, maybe. So it's still tough.
Yes.
Very tough.
So one pattern that I've also seen in few of the clients is where the parent would never appreciate if you have done something well. Because
I'm still waiting for my father to say good job.
Yeah, because because there the pattern was if I praise my child, then they'll become overconfident and it will get into their mind and they will not perform. Hence, privately I will appreciate, but I will not directly tell the individual to do that. Right? So, closing common question to all of you. So, if
I thought audience.
audience, after that I'll open it to audience
after
before
that,
we do that.
audience. Okay.
And audience both from contributing their experiences or perspectives vis-a-vis any questions also which are there. So if leadership does have influence, all these experiences that we spoke about from a childhood standpoint, what is that one thing that leaders should start doing today to better understand themselves and possibly reframe their leadership story? So one thought from each.
I think to be more calm, take a pause, learn to reflect.
Learn to reflect. Okay.
And I'll just continue saying if we are not able to reflect ourselves, please find a coach who does reflect.
Rightly said.
But in my own journey, right, some of them may have heard, I've been a very meticulous person. I have to really plan and plan to the nth level of detail. And even after that, I'm not sure whether I'll go ahead and do it. That's the kind of a person I've been, and that's the kind of a leader I've been, who has to be in control, who has to know everything about everything, and then move ahead. And the realization that that doesn't necessarily help, especially in the last few years, right? Because then you are only planning and you're waiting to really figure out whether this will work or not. I have changed from that to today saying, let me announce and move ahead. So we're going to do this. How we are going to do this, we'll figure it out later. Because rest of the team is there to support you, right? You don't have to know every answer and you don't have to be skilled with everything. You've kind of, built a team that's going to help you through this, right? I think in our days, leaders were supposed to know everything. And even if you didn't know, you have to kind of, keep a straight face. Even if you're going through all the bad days, you're supposed to keep a straight face and not let the rest of the team and the organization know. I think that's changed, and I've changed from that. And that change came because I worked with a coach to say that unless you try, you don't know.
Yeah.
So what I do today, in terms of announcing a program and then hoping that the seats will get filled, and it gets filled, right? Because then, in some ways, surrender, in some ways, universe, in some ways, you have network and brands established to go and do that. So my leadership style has changed over the years. What was hugely impacted because of the way I grew up, to what the rest of the world needs today. So I think one needs to be perceptive about that and be able to change and enable the others to change and help yourselves through someone else if you're not able to do the reflections yourselves. I think that's important.
Okay.
Pretty much similar. I would say that the awareness that everybody has a story, everybody is going through something. So just be kind. Be the great joy of working in a slightly corporate environment is that there are people who can take up what is not done by one person.
Yeah.
So the sun will still rise. You can still get things done. So I think it's a lot easier in a corporate environment than in an entrepreneurship environment in general, unless your entrepreneurship journey becomes very big, and then it becomes a corporate in itself, right? So that is separate. But
Yes.
For larger organization, it's a little easier, and we should take it as a blessing and be kinder to people in general, because also a lot of people have been kind to us for us to be here. So if nothing, it is just returning the favor.
Correct.
So that's how I see it, and I hope many other people see it.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll just open it up to the audience to share some perspective, or if you have any questions for the panelists.
Won't give you the long story, but our car got surrounded by a bunch of rowdies and they tried to take our key away. Side stories that the rowdies were actually lawyers and so on. And my husband did what was needful as he jumped out of the car and was like, what was wrong with you all and blah blah. And normally I would have stayed in the car, which is what I would have been brought up to do. That husband was out fighting by the like, oh. But I actually got out of the car and joined this thing. And when I came back, I realized this is the first time in my life I've actually done that. Because all this has been roll up your windows, don't step out, don't do anything. And you're right in that, how you're brought up is reflecting subconsciously in so many situations. So my question is there some kind of an audit that you can do to understand what are all these hidden biases that you have? I never thought this would be my standard reaction, that generally I would avoid conflict. Because the corporate world where it's nice and safe, I would be very eager to have conflict. So is there some method in which you can figure out all these hidden biases?
So I truly believe that our mindsets, and the mindset can then triggers the way we behave, right, and how we act. The mindsets are an outcome of our past experiences. So if we have to shift our mindsets, we have to have different experiences. And one of the things that I get my class to do, my group to do, when we are talking about mindsets is think about a time when you were in college, maybe, in your younger days, when you were told that there's a new opportunity coming your way. What was your thought? What was your action? Think about a time when you were just new in your organization, the first couple of years, and you were told a new opportunity is coming. What was your thought? What was your action? And now reflect on the last 6 months, hoping that this crowd is a little more senior. Last 6 months be the same thing. A new opportunity is coming. What did you think and how did you act? I get them to do that. And largely there has been a change. Either they were too meek, timid, shy in college, and now they're kind of saying, gung ho, I will go all out. Or they were so excited in college, but now they are like, I'm going to wait and watch. Largely that's been the change. There has been a change in these three. It's not been the same, which makes them reflect as to what caused that change. When did it change? We don't deeply think about it, right? This exercise makes them think of that particular situation or a set of situations, people, experiences, which made them decide to quieten down or to get excited. And then I say that if you want a different outcome today, because you are here, because you're wanting a different outcome, then you have to try it again. Whether you meet with the same experience or not, only when you try you will realize. So maybe that's something people can do, to reflect. When did I change? Why is it that I've never done that? Should I do it? Because I want to have a different experience, I have to kind of try. And once you have a different experience, the mindset totally shifts. Like I said, I was a meek, timid, shy girl. I spoke up and the management heard me. Then I realized that it is good for me to speak up. So that good experience has helped me become who I am. If the management had not heard me, I don't know what would have happened, possibly. So largely mindsets shift only when you have a different experience. So can we try and enable different experiences for ourselves?
Really humble and honored. And Kartik, I was just thinking, okay, the question is what shapes you in life, right? So I could gather at least 7 E's One is basically your education and experience what you have. Other than that is your experience, exposure, environment, ecosystem, and your energy. If you can really harness on this, that's when your leadership shakes up. The so-called all the 7 E's is what you as when you have a right coach or a mentor for that matter, if you get right grooming in first place, leadership path is set. And as you rightly said, in this era, only three things happen. You don't teach, you don't train, you only make people think. And the whole education system should be around awareness, reflection, and action. If you can just align these three things, you will be perfect. Thank you. Humble.
So do one thing in that direction, the rest will follow. And most of my LinkedIn writing is around the concept of brick by brick. So you put one brick, then you put another brick, then you put another brick, and one day the wall is visible to all. Uh, what happens to us is because in the Instagram age we are looking for, overnight weight loss, overnight quitting smoking, overnight all of these things, because that in 1 minute you see both the before and after. So mind registers that. Mind doesn't register that what before and after might have taken 6 months, maybe more, right? And obviously we live in that era, so I can't blame that era. I'm just explaining that the only way is to take that first step. Over planning, overthinking will not help. Like Neeraja earlier said in our own example, of course, some level of thinking and planning is required because otherwise you will take a wrong step. So thinking is required to know what is right. Planning is required to know how you will take the first step. Then you take the first step. You don't plan for 10th step. Right? So I'll give a small anecdote. About 6 months back, maybe less than that, I was in a similar room, slightly larger, where Vishnu Anand was the chief guest, and we were sitting quite close to each other. And I had asked him a question, and the question was in response to the common belief that chess players, particularly that level of chess players, are thinking 30 moves ahead. He said, "Yes, a bakwas." We can think 5 to 10 moves. Of course, some good ones in some situations can think a little bit more, but 10 is more than enough. If you are at playing at that level, 10 is more than enough. So even the most celebrated chess player of the day today, and chess is a game of thinking ahead. Even they are thinking 10 moves, so why are we thinking 20 moves ahead? So
So one question that comes to my mind is, we talked about unlearning, right? And in my experience, I think that is the most difficult thing to do. So, uh, what in your experience have you seen helps in doing that? Because from my experience, what I've seen is, especially the senior leaders and all, I mean, they know that something needs to be unlearned, but then it is very difficult to let their behavior out and then adopt their behavior. So what helps in that? What is, and question to all three of you maybe.
एक काम करो चलो.
I can add a small point. I think, in my opinion, unlearning is overrated. We just have to learn. If it is muscle memory, it is hard to forget muscle memory. But if we consciously try to embrace a new way of doing things, that previous memory just goes down below. Personally, I can relate with one thing. When I learned driving car, so that time the person told me that you take off your shoes and drive. It is easier because I was struggling with it. In my younger days, I didn't learn how to ride a motorbike with gears. I had ungeared vehicle, but not geared vehicle. So I was struggling. But I found it so difficult. One day I decided that something I have to do about it. What will happen? I will do an accident. So let me try. So after that day, I have been doing it with shoes on, no problem. Okay, so I think this unlearning is more a management jargon. Sorry, the coaches. In my opinion, it is overrated. Just learning is required.
Thank you.
What has happened is, first thing when we have to do is unlearning what we always do is only three things: start, stop, and continue. Because stopping things is where we would really reflect, and mostly we don't think about unlearning, as you rightly said. When you start something on the year or as a leader, when you have to do your visual development plan, what you have to say, you first decide what you want to start. Don't take too many things. 1, 2, 3, and also together they actually in parallel you should also decide what you want to stop. And that's when managers act as coaches. Your performance appraisal, you don't say about appraisal, we say performance coaching, and where we say that you tell us what you want to stop, because stopping also requires a lot of conscious effort, and that is really for us. This is what.
From my young age, I was very spiritual, and my name itself is Nagendraa. And I had to read Gita for my grandfather from my village. So my leadership style was always helping people, taking care of my job, and on my own self, I modeled another one. And when you are talking about how powerful exploration from your childhood experience, I found a cosmic cricket zone when I was a boy. Now when I share with people, how did you think of the cosmic cricket club? In those days, I am talking about 1950s. And that was a very well-known club in Coimbatore. And in the organization, I was always known as people supporter, team builder, and I was always given the important assignments in the company. So that's what I want to share. How my foundation helped go through that kind of. I used to start my meetings with a prayer on this, which helped people to focus on what is important. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those powerful insights. So every leader carries a story that began long before their first leadership role.